Episode 103, the mat release, what it is and why use it.
Welcome to the PR Playbook Podcast, the only podcast giving you actionable skills and advice you need to execute a strategic PR program. Warning: what you hear next may lead to brand awareness and increased sales and customer exposure. Now here's your host, Rinjini Joshua.
Hello and welcome to episode 103. Today we're going to be talking about mat releases. We're going to be talking to Sonya Nelson, Senior Business Development Manager at Brandpoint. Hi, Sonya. How are you doing?
Hi, Ranjini. This is so exciting to be part of this discussion. Thank you. I'm doing great.
No, thank you. So recently we started working together and, press releases have been gone, in trend, out of trend, things like that. And I think, content has diversified so much in the last 5 years, and I think using interactive releases I remember when Cision or somebody tried to introduce, like, the interactive press release, like, maybe 15 years ago, way before the time where people were ready to do stuff like that. And now, doing different types of releases is a really creative strategy of making your release effective. Can you tell us a little bit about Brandpoint and how you guys got into this business of doing kind of a different type of content strategy?
Yeah, for sure. Well, Brandpoint, formerly ARA Net, has been serving the PR industry for over 25 years now. And our founders, Ted Yock, it came across a great way to share and convey our clients' messaging in a controlled format. Press releases were the only format that were available at the time. While they are efficient and ineffective to pitch editors on, a myriad of topics, they're still a staple in our industry today, and they still definitely have their place. We, have most of our partners use both strategies, mat releases and press releases, but there are some key differentiators on, their place and when to lean on one approach versus another. And to your point, they definitely intersect, and most of our clients are really working to be more strategic in how they go to market and using the tools in the right for the right instances. So
Mhm.
press releases still have their place, like I said, to be kind of a quick announcement on a wire when you're needing some support to pitch editors. Brandpoint was the first to distribute and syndicate branded content online. We are the pioneers of working with publishers, providing really high quality content that strategically, supports and aligns with the type of content that they're, publishing every day, and serving our clients in getting those messages distributed right within the news publication guaranteed. And that's really kind of the difference. Press releases are an announcement to editors. Mat releases are a completed, finished, client and brand approved story that's intended directly for their consumer audience, published right within the publication. So
Can you back up a little and tell us a little bit about syndication, just in case, like, the people listening don't know what that is? What does it mean to have syndicated content?
no, that's a great question. Syndicated content essentially means that, but let me take a step back. Mat releases, let's talk about mat releases. So, mat releases, and the term, the acronym for mat is Master of Align Type. Once upon a time, when publishers would take your story, they would align the text and manually format these articles. So, there was a long process that went into creating mat releases. Mat releases historically were earned media only, for print publications. And then as time went on, those stories and where we consume news and articles and content are all digital, so that you can see a release on your favorite publication. So if you're looking at Chicago Tribune or LA Times or your local publication. These stories are available to you in lifestyle sections, sponsored content. You'll hear that term, branded content. They're used interchangeably. And what syndication means is when a network manages or owns, multiple publications. So, say, in the state of Minnesota or California or wherever you're located, there is a major publisher that serves your whole county area district, and they syndicate these stories to each of those particular publications that serve your area. So that's a syndicated release. So there may be one publication owner or network, and they serve a broader community. And so, what's really wonderful about a mat release is that we're able to serve those markets and serve brands that need reach in a specific state or region. Or if they're looking to really share their story nationally to really build that brand awareness. So, that's what a syndicated release is. Our position is that we've forged relationships with these publishers over the years. So they've really become a great partner to us, to the clients that we serve, and providing us insights on, what really makes and creates a great piece of quality content. What types of categories are they looking for? What kind of formats are consumers and readers most interested in? Written word content, typically mat releases are 400 to 600 words. They always feature a beautiful lifestyle photo that kind of brings the whole story to life. So not only text based, but they're visually intriguing. And as a result of these partnerships, we're able to guarantee 800 placements at a very minimum for every story that we touch. The other beautiful thing about mat releases with Brandpoint specifically is we have one of the best writing teams in our industry. All of our writers are in house. They all come with journalism backgrounds, highly tenured, 10 to 12 years. So, what's really been wonderful about that is that they've been able to work with agencies every day, work with a myriad of brands from financial sector to health, which can be complex, whether it's clinical health, biomedical health, general health, or specifically the COVID-19 response, where there was a ton of unknowns, and people were just trying to get their story out and figure out where their position and place in this industry, in this ever-changing environment, is coming to play. But anyway, mat releases do a great job, and the writers that we work with are, like I said, highly experienced in a number of categories, and are able to, take that information from you, create a beautiful place and a piece of content. And we do offer complimentary writing, which has been a great asset, which ensures great success for your story. We
Yeah, I
also,
mean, I think the thing I like about the content, so I just wanna kinda go back and just kinda dive into what it kind of looks like, and how it's different than an advertisement. Because I mean, that's gonna be, I think, the next question that'll come up, like, how is it different than an advertisement?
yeah,
How is it different from sponsored content? You mentioned how it's different from a press release, which is really more of like a news announcement. But I
yeah,
think the thing I like about this, and we are one of those agencies that, we will do either both, or we'll do it as an addition too.
yeah,
And we've done this a little bit now. And I think it gives you an opportunity to tell the story in your own words, the way you would want it
yes,
to be seen as like in a journalistic perspective. And like you said, you guys have such a great like writing team that does it from that perspective, from the journalist perspective. For the magazine or outlet particularly, I think that is even better for them because, oftentimes we as PR writers will write for like more in the pitching style of like us pitching the media,
yes,
where yeah, as like this mat release comes really more from a journalistic writing style, and kind of it's a little bit more aligned with editorial. And so when you're reading this, yes, it is paid for and it's sponsored, but the purpose, if you use it in the right way, I always find that you can use it as educational content. And obviously those are the pieces that kind of come off the best and probably get the best response, as if they're written from a perspective of really educating the consumer or addressing the consumer in a way where you're not really selling directly, which you can, but I don't think it works as well. What would you think?
Yes, exactly. Actually, I think that comment is spot on, and that's definitely what we recommend for clients that are providing or wanting to publish a story that they've written or
Mhm.
invested time or resources or repurposing blog content. We definitely recommend that the story be news you can use. Why would a consumer engage and spend time with your content? It's because they have a need or the message that you're sharing is valuable, not just for brand awareness, but to really educate the consumer or the reader and how to utilize and implement whatever you're sharing or the message that you're sharing. They can apply that to their everyday life. And that's why we do call them, lifestyle stories, editorial content, news you can use, tips, trends, how to. Those are all things that people love to read, and they align very well with the stories that many editors are publishing every day.
So that just like follows on beautifully to like kind of my next question, which is, in during this podcast, we usually like to give people like the best tips. And
Mhm.
whether it's a mat release or whether it's sponsored content, do you have like a few best practices or a few like maybe 3 to 4 tips that you could provide to make the content really like news that you can use, like you say?
Yeah, for sure. One approach that we're seeing a lot that tends to engage readers, but it's also very easy to publish. Our editors want content that's concise. So when we say news, you can use bulleted list approach tends to work really well. Top 5 things, to consider on your next road trip, or 3 things you can do or implement to be more fiscally responsible. There's all these great things, or right now we think about content from a trending perspective. Is there a seasonal hook that's relevant for spring and summer? But more importantly, how do we expand that message so it also has more of an evergreen appeal? When I say evergreen, most mat release stories, at least from Brandpoint, we promote that content for 4 months and we're tracking the results for 6 months. So we want the story to not only have a relevant hook now, but something people can utilize. And when they engage with it, if you didn't see the story when it ran today, but you engage with it a month from now, we want to make sure that it still has some staying power and some relevance. So that's one thing, news you can use, something that's trending, something that has staying power. 400 to 600 words tends to be kind of the magic word count that most publishers prefer because they can, utilize it in their print edition. And then obviously you have a little more flexibility with a digital version of that article. The other thing is photography, visuals. We are such a visual society. Any kind of video content, we encourage clients to embed video in their mat release image space. 2 to 3 minutes is usually kind of the magic time frame that we don't want it to get too long, but we want to give people time to really kind of share the story. So video content is huge. Listicles you'll hear about, kind of that whole BuzzFeed approach, the bulleted list approach, showing a visual to substantiate any kind of bulleted topic, 100 words and then a photo to kind of help walk that reader through a visual story. Links, we always get questions about links in articles. I think it's always great to include at least, one link that gives people an ability to go to your website to learn more. Even if you have a third party link, an outside resource to substantiate, what you're addressing in a story or an article. I think that's always great because it shows that you care to provide, genuinely great information without being too self-serving. So I think balance is really important. Those are kind of the main things that we look for: lifestyle, hook, visual, relevant content. Oh, one other thing that I'd like to mention too, with links and articles, we often get asked, is it okay to put tracking links in articles so we can track, activity and readership? Typically, you don't wanna include, links that show odd characters just because of security, and people are so concerned about what they click on, from a reader's perspective. We don't wanna provide them anything that makes them uncomfortable. So if you can just provide a clean link, www to whatever your website, that's usually best. And then we do have opportunities now for targeting and engagement. We could talk more about that for what we call our premium mat releases, where the story is intended for the reader, but for so many brands, they're really wanting to be intentional about serving messaging that's relevant to the audience they are trying to reach, whether it be age or gender or demographic, or for like education clients. If you're trying to target parents with graduations happening and people are looking at the next chapter of their life, being able to be intentional about the content that you're presenting and distributing. We now have ways where we can actually amplify the story beyond just, a article, a map release that's for standard distribution and readership. We now have ways too to serve these messages to specific audiences and then drive engagement through social, through page views, through website traffic. So there's all these really great things that map releases can do that are very unique in our space.
Yeah, and I would love to, maybe tap a little bit more on diversifying content through like video and images. You had mentioned like so many cool different types of content that you could publish, like listicles and things like that. But what about, can you tell us a little bit more about how impactful the use of video is? I mean, this is something I've kind of been pushing through the pandemic, and with the increase of content on everything on the web, I guess. Just kind of positioning, using different kinds of positioning and using video a little bit more, maybe using infographics.
Yeah.
Have you seen that like the use of imagery has impacted like the engagement of people like looking at content like that?
Definitely, and I think, just because we do have so little time,
Yeah.
and everybody is very efficient in how they're consuming content. Visual content is so much easier to, read and consume. And I think especially if you have complex ideas and a lot of data points, like an infographic is very powerful for that. You can break it down into visual assets, and it's so much, it's fun for the reader, and it's just a great way to diversify, how you present your message. I always encourage my clients throughout the year, to kind of look at a multimedia strategy.
Right.
Written content and the mat release is a fantastic, approach to build that initial brand awareness. Then, embedding video if you have those assets you've already invested in, or if you just want to, further reach maybe a different demographic. Maybe it's an age demographic. Maybe it's you're just trying to, like I said, especially in the health sector, that keeps coming to mind to me, where sometimes there's really complex information that maybe a little high level for the average reader to understand. But if you can break it down into sound bites that are easy for people to digest over time, I think that's always a great approach. And then, like I said, with the 2 to 3 minutes, just to kind of keep that attention, that information is something that we've tracked over the years, and also feedback that we've received directly from the networks and the editors that are tracking engagement every day with their subscription base.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I mean, that's the one thing about content that, we've been struggling with when we're pitching as well, when we're pitching media and like, you know, while the traditional approach is always great, I think it's a good time to take a look at your marketing strategy and integrate new types of content and I get we're using the same words, but like diversifying really the way we're presenting information so that you could catch the attention of the different types of readers. And I like the approach that you were talking about of really targeting the different demographics, because I think that's really important now more than ever, is that I think content has become like super niched. And so people are very specific about the way they consume it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then you have your favorite,
Yeah.
things that we do. I think that's great.
Well, this morning I just went down like a Facebook rabbit hole. I don't necessarily like Facebook, but once you get on there, it's like, it's just you lose control. Facebook
Very
takes
easy.
over. So you get lost in the feed or whatever. So I think it's also important to note, like, that could happen with your content. So, to optimize your content in different ways, whether it becomes, I'm sure there's some other creative things that you can create and produce. I think the mat release is so great because it allows you to, again, control like how the content is presented. And
Okay.
I don't know if you guys do like any graphic input or creative input. Do you guys
Yes.
work on that at all as
We
well?
do. Yeah, yes, we do. We have a full in-house team of designers, writers, photo editors, videographers, and it actually, it's been so interesting because I personally have been with Brandpoint 13 years now, and just seeing where we started
Mhm.
and where we are now is in great part to the feedback and what our market is driving. Like we're addressing, Brandpoint is here to support and address a solution, right? So we're here to be a partner for agencies and for publishers. And that need, for video support, for infographic design support. We work with some of the biggest brands in the world, and we're really fortunate to do what we do every day to have great partners like you. That are presenting, and you guys are right on the cutting edge of
Mhm.
always, innovating and trying to think of the next thing. What's going to resonate with a reader? What do people care about? How can we, you know present these brands in an authentic way, in a meaningful way. And visual content is definitely where we see some of the biggest needs, and especially in light of COVID. A lot of
Mhm.
people have kind of shifted resources within their organization and streamlined marketing, social, PR teams. And the mat release really kind of serves people where they're at. So I think you're spot on with your observations too, with visual and digital content.
So let me ask you like just an industry question. Like what do you think about, what's happening in the media as far as generalized? You don't have to get political, but but like, just, there's so much content and I find myself, even though I'm in it for work and doing it every day and I really enjoy what we do, but like I do find myself kind of coming away from it a little bit because it's like so noisy. So
Mhm.
what is your perspective on the amount of noise that's there now and like how to just, I don't know, maybe how to really stand out without like always commanding so much attention as far as like
Mhm.
presenting too much content, you know?
Exactly. No, I think that's, we definitely hear that every day.
Yeah.
But I think the key in every conference I attend, all the industry discussions I have, with PR communicators and experts and thought leaders, everybody kind of is in the same boat, right? We're all
Mhm.
figuring it out together. It's a constant moving target. I really think the key to kind of cutting through the noise is really being intentional. I said that
Yeah.
before, but it is so important. You really have to think about, the brand and what makes the most sense. Like, don't do an infographic for infographics sake. Don't do a video segment just to check a box and say that was an approach you did. When I
Yeah.
think about multimedia and intentional, it's what resources are you already investing in?
Mhm.
What content do you already have? How can we present that in a meaningful way, and what's authentic to the brand. Just like with, I'm in Minneapolis. So, when not to get too political, but with the George Floyd
Yeah.
incident, there was a lot of social unrest throughout the country. And there was a big kind of reckoning with where do we stand in diversity within our own organization with the brand. And a lot of
Mhm.
brands are coming to us, how can we approach multicultural in a meaningful way? And, so where I'm going with this is intentional. Intentional can be, a blog makes the most sense for you. A map
Right.
release makes the most sense for you. The written form makes the most sense because you've got a lot of really important information to share and it should be done text based. Or
Mhm.
if you're a very visual brand, show off your photography, travel clients, you're visual, that's what you should be doing.
Yeah, I think there's this, like, challenge also. It's like, I agree with you, like, elevate your content a little bit, right? Like, make it
Yeah,
intentional, elevate it to a point where you're really, really, like, driving home your passion points. But I
yes.
think the other problem that we're seeing, it especially with entrepreneurs and startups and, people that
Mhm.
we work with every day that might be listening here, is resources. So, like, as far
Yes.
as the money goes, like, it does if you wanna produce good content, you do have to spend a little bit more money. I mean, I think that's one challenge that I've had is, like, I've really wanted to do some really cool, outstanding campaigns, but then I always get a pushback of, "Well, okay, well, that's just a little bit too much money." And I'm just thinking, like, but if you wanna stand out instead of just making noise, you might
Yeah.
have to spend a little bit more, but I think you'll actually get more from it as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, and we've seen some of a lot of startups actually
Mhm,
coming to the forefront, almost leveling the field, if you will, because they're approaching it from a new perspective. They're being authentic, they're being intentional. 9 times out of 10, if you're a startup, you are starting a new business to address a need. So
mhm.
you have, good positioning. And I do have clients that come to me that are brand new to the market and they're like, how do we even compete in this space? I'm not a big retailer. I'm not the biggest fintech or cybersecurity company. Like where do I stand in this space? And the same is true. Just slow and steady is one approach. We always say kind of speed wins. Being the first to innovate is always a great thing, but
Mhm.
once again, I think striking a balance on knowing who your audience is, what you stand for, and then creating meaningful content is important. And then choosing your partners carefully is important. We have a lot of startup companies that don't have the budget for the big agencies yet, and there's a
Right.
lot of smaller agencies doing really creative amazing work, so I think to your point, we are all learning together, but I do think the mat release has a nice way of kind of bringing that all together to create a controlled media play that quite honestly kind of levels the playing field for brands. And it really makes, for publishers, it's a great resource because they've always got high quality content in a myriad of categories. And they're getting, they know they can lean on partners like myself or for like for stories that are already formatted in an easy way they can use, publish ready, consumers love them, and it continues to bolster their readership as well. So I really see us all kind of working together through this. And our approach here is very collaborative. And I think to your point, it gets hard to cut through clutter, but that's what's nice about a mat release. It's controlled. And I do think that's why we're getting more attention, because once upon a time, mat releases were all you could do. And then there was this big digital boom, and there's all these resources. And to your point, if you don't have a huge budget, what do you focus on? And,
Sure.
I recommend focus on what you can control.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Okay, well, thank you. I mean, I think this is such a good conversation to have, like, finding new ways to present content to the media, to the consumer, to your B2B. Any tips, any final tips that you think people, other than I think being intentional is a really good one, but any kind of best practice or tip you want to leave us with today or anything we didn't talk about that we should have?
Yeah, I would say, really do your research on outcomes and results. The nice thing about, like I said, a mat release, if you're considering integrating this into your strategy, mat releases can be used for consumer interest stories. We also are able to support bylined B2B thought leadership stories that talk about sustainability, diversity, your brand or company's position and how they're innovating. And then there are, like I said, strategic ways to really focus on audience segmentation and, just really kind of reach out and consult before you try to go this alone. Like I said, it's been a challenging few years, and we're here to simplify life for everybody. And then the takeaways, I would say, like I said, short, concise, please think about that. Editors say it all the time.
Yeah,
Short, concise, please. Visual content, yes, is still king. Being very intentional in your message, be authentic. And yeah, I think those are the keys that I would leave everyone with today.
perfect. Well, thank you again so much, Sonia, for jumping on the PR playbook. We're going to have all the links and contact information and links in the show notes. So you guys can take a look at that. And I think that's it. And then you want to just leave off with your website so people can come and check you guys out?
Yes, please. Our website is www.brandpoint, brandpoint.com. www.brandpoint.com. My name is Sonya Nelson Davis. I was married in September. I still have to get used to that. Sonya Nelson Davis. And we have an
Congratulations.
amazing team here that are happy to consult with you, just to kind of give you ideas, or you're welcome to come bounce ideas off of us and share insights at any time. We love working with new clients and love supporting our industry. So thank you so much for this time. I really appreciate the invitation to participate today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sonia. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, everyone.